Judiciary and the House Commerce Conference Committee will come to order. And I think last we left, we were looking, we had pulled up 2118 and 2342, and we were looking at Senate Bill 9 as well. So if the revisers are ready with a couple of amendments on Senate Bill 9, we can get to that. If not, we can do some of our other business that's pretty clean and straightforward. So are the revisers ready with some amendments?
Madam Chair, I think in this instance, we'll want you to be more specific about which amendment you want to talk about, and then we'll tell you whether we're ready with it or not. Yeah.
Sure, great. Did you have the amendment from Senator Titus ready to move forward? So, okay, and I'll ask you to hand that to, not hand it out yet, but if you'll hand it to Senator Titus, and he can distribute it when he's ready, unless he's ready now. Yeah, he's ready now. So yeah, if you wanted to explain, Senator.
We had quite a bit of discussion about the definition of de minimis, specifically that large subsection B that dealt with the investment securities owned company. And it was a little confusing to parse what exactly that meant. And so I've worked with the revisers to clarify that. We basically, in this amendment, we would still strike the definition of foreign entity, but since it's only used in one place, we would essentially take that definition and replace foreign entity with a company whose domicile is any other country than the United States. We think that just avoids confusion on the intent of that paragraph. It's very specific, but I want to make sure it's clear, so I think this moves us that direction.
Sure, Representative Turk.
Thank you. So is my understanding that we were just defining foreign entity. So you want to remove it entirely and then just put the definition in its place?
The effect would be the same since it's only used in one place. So you're basically just, rather than having a definition for that word that also is very similar to foreign principal, we just take what we mean by foreign entity and plainly say it there.
Sure, Chair Tarwater.
Thank you. I have a question for the revisers. Can you tell us, does this do anything? Does this change the bill at all, other than moving words?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From what I understand, this would simply clarify what the language was already supposed to do.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Turk.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm trying to think about the the third, fourth, fifth ripples in the pond that this might cause us in the future. What would be the difference between just simply adding foreign entity definition within the bill? Why wouldn't we just add that definition?
Senator Titus.
It's just ease of reading, because we only use it in one place. We only define it in order to use it in a definition of something else. So let's just say what it means. If it were in other places, you'd be correct, but since it's not used anywhere else in the bill, I think it's clear to read.
Chair Tarwater, did you have any other comments regarding that offer, or for the moment? Or none? Okay. We had talked when last we met regarding adding cameras in section 12 with any drone to make it also any camera or cameras. And we had talked last time that, or we thought that perhaps a more narrow definition would be helpful, because I think you were asking about closed-circuit TV and other things. And so we have conceptually an amendment ready, and I think it's being put on paper as well, that the goal is regarding permanently affixed cameras, right, to fixtures, buildings, other structures, not to impact, for instance, law enforcement with body cams or dash cams or mobile phones that government agencies use, because that's, you know, the point is with the affixed cameras that could be easily transmitting information to foreign adversaries because they're recording, you know, 24/7 and would be then a security threat. So we don't yet have the amendment ready, but that's the concept, to help tighten it down because, again, not meant to impact body cams or dashboard cameras for law enforcement. Representative Turk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So were you able to, in this conceptual, to decide between exactly what avenue of camera? Like, is it's the wired cameras? Or are we talking about IP cameras? Or did we narrow that down?
Thank you for the question. And that's, again, with some help from the House, since we're going to be needing to work together on this. If you have some ideas about that, you know, if it's a closed circuit TV that's not being, you know, uploaded or transmitted, then that would not be part of this bill. So that would be excluded, so that government agencies can conduct their business and we can still provide for national security issues. So that would be, right, internet connected. Sure, Representative Shu.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And conceptually, I'm not really opposed to this type of amendment. It kind of goes back to what I said yesterday is, again, this does broaden it, and I haven't heard from stakeholders one way or the other on it, whereas we've had a hearing on the drones. And so I don't want to get it into this scenario as where maybe we as a conference committee put this on, but then later, for some reason, it might torpedo the bill because there's some scenario we hadn't thought of. So that's my concern with this, but conceptually, I understand what you're doing with this.
Right, and that would be the intent as well. Conceptually, it's, you know, if it's something where we're looking at for a drone, well, there are more permanently placed cameras that could be a bigger threat than a drone that's not up there 24/7. Or maybe, you know, restricted in that regard too. So, but something to be thinking about. Yes, Chair Tarwater.
Do you have an idea when we'll be able to see what the amendment looks like?
That would be up to the reviser about when it's prepared, but we can give them some additional time if we want to pull up, for instance, 2342 and kick that out of committee. But no, I think the reviser has a comment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to remind the committee that House Bill 2342 hasn't been non-concurred on yet. So, you know, not that you could, you know, perhaps kind of discuss generally the concepts that are in the bill, but that bill is not before this conference committee. It's not even halfway to conference yet.
Thank you. And is it the same status in the proceedings for House Bill 2118?
Madam Chair, yes, House Bill 2118 has not been non-concurred on yet. I think I think I have something that I could have the Senate review as your Senate position and see if it's amenable to you. So I could print that off if you just wanted to stand at ease for a few minutes.
Sure, let's do that. Thank you. Thank you to the hard work from our revisers. We do have a written balloon amendment. We're just waiting on copies. So we'll go ahead and call the committee back to order. Thank you for standing by, everyone. And you can see now that the balloon amendment has been distributed. It reads, camera means a device that records still images or video that is affixed in a permanent manner to a building or structure and connected to the internet. Camera does not include a body camera as defined in KSA 45-254 and amendments thereto, a dash camera or a camera in a mobile phone. So any questions for the revisor on that? Or any discussion? Okay, then I think the other part of the Senate offer was to, if you'll remind us, Senator Titus, that would be great.
We've had some more discussion on the part of our amendment that dealt with the Department of Administration and moving that responsibility for dealing with locals. We're fine leaving it the way it is.
Okay, did you need to confer, or where are we on? We've made some offers on dates and cameras on in the drone section, and with the change to the definition of foreign entity there. So well, since it's the House's bill that came over to the Senate, what are your thoughts, or where you all are?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So where are we in totality right now? So the changes that you're talking about currently are changing the date of one section to 2026, adding cameras, and then adding the language that we talked about yesterday, where the governor would make an approval for an expansion. Those are the three things, changing what the Senate bill currently has.
I think also then the amendment this morning, changing the definition of foreign entity, would be the fourth piece.
Okay.
But yes.
I can tell you that for sure we cannot accept the date change because of the imminent threat. The rest is something that we'll have to, everything, we're fine with everything. We haven't discussed the cameras as they currently stand. I have a procedural question. If we have a tentative agreement, walking out of here, and we're okay with the definition of camera, can we concur to changes in conference and be done?
Mr. Chairman, so because you guys are, it sounds like, coming to some agreements about making some changes here, it wouldn't be a motion to concur because you want to make some changes. So we would draft a conference committee report that encapsulates those changes, and then you guys would sign it and run it on both sides. If you do think you've come to a tentative agreement, we can, of course, start drafting that report, and then if something changes, you can always call another conference committee if it appears that you haven't come to an agreement. But it's always best from an open meetings perspective that you actually come to a real agreement in the open meeting if possible.
Okay, so if it's okay with you, we would agree to this, including the cameras, not including the date. And should that change, I'll contact you and we'll schedule another meeting.
Well, appreciate that. And there are 4 amendments on the table. That was two of them. So the other two were changing to make it so that the governor is going to review for the exceptions and then changing the definition of foreign entity, but we'll discuss those two in a minute. So with the cameras and the date change, you know, we've heard from a lot of law enforcement that it's important that they have some time beyond July 1st of this year to take a look at that, trying to balance here the needs for local law enforcement as well as national security. So understand the House's position on the 1 year. And the Senate then counteroffer would be December 31st of 2025 rather than July 1st of 2025, as is the current bill now. So rather than a year, which was our previous offer, 6 months to basically December 31st, 2025.
All right, so it is the House's position that this threat is very real, very imminent, and it's also the House's position that there are adequate protections in the bill for exceptions going forward should there not be anything available, and we cannot make a date change. We're already a year behind of where we should have been if we would have passed this last year, and there's a lot of angst in our military members, so we can't change the date.
Give us just a moment to confer, please. Okay, we are called back to order, and thank you for standing by. And we seem to have at least tentative agreement on 3 of the 4 pieces, which would be the governor's review of requests, changing the definition of foreign entity, and adding in cameras, tentatively, those 3. And then the 4th one, we need to shop around and on our side as well. So can we have a tentative agreement about those 3 things? We'll look at the 4th on our side, which is the date change, and come back at 1 PM and see if we can't finalize and wrap this up, having had the opportunity to talk with who we need to in our chambers.
That's, okay, at 1 o'clock?
Yes, if that works.
We'll make that work. I would suggest that you flag down some of your military members that have any type of clearance at all on the date.
We will
Thanks.
try to do that. Thank you. And a question from the reviser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's just one technical part of the original Senate offer that I want to make sure, because no one seems to have quite talked about it yet. It's on page 6, and it deals with the Attorney General language about the rules and regulations versus like the policies and procedures. It's largely technical, but I just want to make sure that it is either agreed to on both sides or that you're talking about it.
Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Do we have a balloon on that?
It's in the
In
the
the
first
original?
Senate
Okay.
offer.
I'm going to look at Ethan's copy real quick. Okay, we're looking at the balloon on page 6. That would be striking lines 13 through 15 on page 6 of the bill. Thank you. And Senator Titus.
Thank you. So this section here, a couple paragraphs down, it says that the Attorney General will do rules and regulations to carry out this process, but at the beginning it says procedures and policies. That's just a really ambiguous conflict. It doesn't mesh. If he's going to do rule and regs, just do the rules and regs that regulate everything. We don't need this. Some things are policy, some things are not. So I just want to clean that up so it's not ambiguous. The point is the Attorney General is going to set the rules. It's going to be in regulations, and everybody will be following the same thing because these are going to lead to appealable decisions and things. So it really needs to be regs. But we can get in the whole discussion about what is a policy and is it actually a regulation and doesn't need to be adopted, but it's cleaner to just remove it. But it's not to change the intent of this at all.
So I'll have to talk to somebody about that. I'm not an attorney, but I would think that there are 2 different words with 2 different definitions. When you look them up would be my guess. I'm not looking them up, so I don't know. But a policy is different from a regulation. Regulations they take a lot longer to produce, and they have to go through a rigorous approval process, and it takes time, where a policy is simply a policy. This is how we do things. So I want to make sure we're not making too big of a change there, and we'll report back.
I do have a question while you're looking into this particular amendment. So perhaps it is a tighter definition for the rules and regulations rather than having not the legislature create policy, which is possibly what the amendment is getting at.
It's really more, so the problem is you get into a weird line with policy, what's an enforceable policy and what's not. And if there's going to be appeals on this program and standards, having soft policies that aren't actually the regulations could be problematic. I mean, they're fully empowered to operate the program and set parameters, but it doesn't need to say that because that's all sort of inherent in this. But if you're going to have, there's a rules, a part of the Rules and Regs Act that says you have to adopt, if you're going to use the policies as law, you have to adopt them as regulations. And I'm trying to eliminate that confusion.
Thank you. So each of our chambers have some items to consider, and we will then reconvene at 1 o'clock unless Chair Tarwater has something else to add.
I just want to give you a quick heads up that I'm getting immediate pushback on the cameras. There's still some questions, so I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. We may talk about that a little bit more.
Okay, great. It seems that, if we're worried about foreign adversaries spying using drones, they would have that same opportunity using affixed cameras, so that we wouldn't want them to have access to. So with that, then some further discussions, I think we will have at 1:30 while your chamber takes a look at this and ours does too. So not the whole chamber, not the whole body, but did I say 1:30? Okay, I'm skipping ahead. So 1 o'clock, yes, 1 o'clock, we will meet then.